up.
Every rocket, go for deploy.
Thanks, Shannon, and to everybody in the shuttle program. The crew is go for launch.
Hot dead. Nice to be in orbit.
We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Good afternoon, and welcome to a Q&A with the NASA's SpaceX Crew-1 astronauts before their launch aboard the SpaceX Crew Dragon to the International Space Station, which is scheduled for this Saturday, November 14th at 7:49 p.m. Eastern Time. From left are mission specialist Shannon Walker, pilot Victor Glover, and Crew Dragon commander Mike Hopkins, all NASA astronauts, and mission specialist Soichi Noguchi, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut. NASA's SpaceX Crew-1 mission is the first crew rotational flight of a U.S. commercial spacecraft with astronauts to the International Space Station. The crew arrived to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida yesterday and is joining us from Crew Quarters. We'll give them a chance to make brief remarks, and then we'll take questions from the phone line and social media. Participants on the phone can press *1 to let us know that you have a question, and those joining us at home can ask questions on social media using the hashtag AskNASA. With that, over to you, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Megan. And good afternoon, and thank you to everyone that is joining us today. As you can imagine, we're very excited to be here in Florida at Kennedy Space Center for the final days before our launch to the International Space Station. It's pretty amazing. We've been here less than 24 hours, and in that time, we have seen our rocket, we've seen our space vehicle Resilience, and we've seen our spacesuits. And so for an astronaut, that's considered a pretty good day. As we speak to you today, though, we do want to acknowledge that there are final preparations on the vehicle, the hardware that are ongoing, as well as final reviews at the agency level. And so the number of people that are supporting this launch are many, and so we just want to say thank you to all of them that are making this happen. As a crew, we are ready. We are ready for this launch. We are ready for the 6 months of work that is waiting for us on board the International Space Station, and we are ready for the return. And finally, I want to say thank you. Thank you to our families. Thank you to all the people at NASA, at SpaceX, and around the world that have helped us get to this point.
Thank you. All right, we don't have a lot of time, so let's go straight into questions. Let's start with Bill Harwood with CBS News.
Hey guys, it's Bill Harwood over here at the Kennedy Space Center. I guess this is for Mike. This is the first operational flight of a Crew Dragon. Tell us why it's so important to both to end NASA's sole reliance on the Soyuz and the value of getting 4 USOS crew on station for the foreseeable future from a science standpoint. Thanks.
You bet, Bill. Hey, thanks for the question. And, I think, first of all, I'd say that our relationship that we've had with our Russian partners and the ability to fly with them to the International Space Station on the Soyuz has been fantastic. That has been a great relationship that we've relied on over the years. But at the same time, it's also good to have your own capabilities. And it's great for our country. It's great for the world to have options in terms of getting into space. And so I think you're seeing this growth in this capability, not only just in the ability to get humans into space, but you've seen it already with the ability to get cargo into space. And so this is just another step on that process. And then I am really excited, as you mentioned, to see what it's going to be like when we're actually going to have 5 USOS crew members on board the International Space Station, along with our 2 Russian colleagues that'll be up there with us. But it's going to be exciting to see how much work we're going to be able to get done while we're there. And so I know they've got a plan. We actually yesterday had a chance to kind of see what that first week looks like. And already there's not a lot of gray space on there. So I think they're going to keep us pretty busy.
All right, let's go to Chris Davenport with the Washington Post.
Hopkins, human spaceflight is always a challenge,
But here you've got sort of this double whammy of a pandemic and now potentially this tropical storm bearing down. I'm just wondering what impact that's having on you all and what, if any, effect it's having on all your preparation. Thanks.
You bet. Well, it is 2020, so I guess the tropical storm, we're not surprised by that. It has been interesting. In fact, Victor and I, we've been training for this mission for about 2 years, a little over 2 years now. Shannon and Soichi, they joined us about the time the pandemic started. And so as far as they've been concerned, they haven't known training without having to work around the pandemic. And that's really, we've had to do some special things to make that happen. That's not only to protect us, but also to protect the entire team, because the trainers, the people that are building the vehicles, the people that are sitting in the control rooms, all of that, it has taken a special effort to protect everybody. And so that has changed the training flow a little bit. It's put us, I guess, in isolation a little bit. It's actually from our families' perspectives as well. As you can imagine, we've had, they've been a little bit more restrictive on their activities as well over the past 8 months, just because of the situation that we're in. And so it's been difficult, but at the same time, I would say people have done an amazing job of getting us to this point. And so I can't say enough about that. As far as the weather, we're looking at that very closely. It has had some impacts on our preparations. They've adjusted when we're going to roll the vehicle out and do static fires and things of that nature. But right now, we're still on a plan to be ready to launch on the 14th.
Okay, let's go to Camden Hall with Nashville News.
And is really for anybody on the crew or Soichi, anybody that has experience with the shuttle. As described at T-minus 1 minute, they say it feels like the shuttle is coming, alive beneath them. Do you feel like that same thing will occur with Falcon 9 at that 1 minute mark, or do you feel like it'll be much smoother up until that T0 mark? Thank you.
Well, I'll take the first question. Yeah, hello, Nashville. We'll be very interested to experience this first Dragon for all of us. And what we hear from Bob and Doug on the demo one, that they have a couple of very distinct noise or sound as they do the fielding through the final stage. And so that's kind of a sign of that the rocket is filled up, ready to go. So really anxious to feel that the vibration.
All right, let's go to Gina Sunseri with ABC News.
This is for Commander Hopkins. How are the sleeping arrangements going to work on a space station? It seems like you're short one sleeping pod with 5 of you up there.
So that's a great question. It's a great observation as well. Yes, we are currently short one crew quarters on board station. I will say that the ISS program is working on that, and there are plans to have a temporary station that will be up there. Not sure when it's going to arrive. It could arrive mid-mission, or it may not get up there while we're still on board. So in the interim, they are exploring options that where I can sleep, including on the vehicle itself, on Resilience itself. And so I think that's at least the leading candidate for initially when we get on board, but we'll continue to evaluate that throughout the mission and make sure that's the right place.
Okay, now to Dan Bowens with Fox 5 New York.
Hey guys, Dan Bowens with Fox in New York. Thank you so much. 2 questions if it's okay. The first question, but when you all leave to when you come back, the country could look very different with vaccine potential and a new administration. Is that something you guys have to keep in mind or sort of compartmentalize? The next question for Victor. Victor, we just had history with the first black woman elected as vice president. You'll make history with this flight, and that's something you can kind of put into perspective for us.
I mean,
you want to go ahead and take both? Yeah.
Yes, so the world is going to look different. Hopefully, I would love to see. And hey, Dan, how you doing? I hope that it's mainly based on the fact that we have a vaccine and that people can go about, taking care of the things they need to take care of in their normal lives safely. So that's the biggest thing that I hope happens. And I think to put this in context, it is something to be celebrated once we accomplish it. And I am honored to be in this position and to be a part of this great and experienced crew. And I look forward to getting up there and doing my best to make sure that we are worthy of all the work that's been put into setting us up for this mission. So, but unlike the election, that is in the past, or at least is receding into the past, where this mission is still ahead of me. So let's get there, and then I'll talk to you after I get on board. How about that?
Okay, let's go to Paul Rivera with West 2 News.
Good to see you all. This is to the group. I was just curious about your reaction of the news of Administrator Jim Bridenstine stepping down once the president-elect is sworn in. Do you also think that that's going to affect in any way future NASA astronauts and the mission moving forward?
Shannon, you want to take it?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I know it's customary for the people in the administration to submit their resignations, and then we have to take it from there. Honestly, I have no idea what will come after that. Assuming that we will continue on with our Artemis mission and just keep doing what we've been doing at NASA, because that's what we do.
Okay, let's go to Mike Brown with Inverse.
Hi, guys. Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. My question is, this flight is several hours to the International Space Station, and I'm curious what that's like to sort of be in that position for several hours. I mean, how do you stay comfortable? How do you go to the bathroom? How do you eat? What is it like, sort of spending the day on this trip?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the interesting parts about this particular mission is, when Bob and Doug launched, there were only 2 people. And so we're going to be figuring out some of that as we go, because we'll be the first crew on it with 4 of us, a full crew. And so right now, the way the launch looks, it's going to be a day 1 rendezvous. So I think about a little over 8 hours after we launch, we should be docking to the International Space Station. So there's not going to be a lot of time. We're not anticipating that we're going to have a sleep period or anything of that nature. But at the same time, if we were to slip to the next day, it becomes more of a 24, 25, I think even maybe 27-hour rendezvous. So now that question becomes even more relevant, because now we're spending quite a bit more time on board the vehicle. So I think it really depends a little bit on the length of the mission. Shannon, you want to?
I was just going to add, even if we do have our shortened rendezvous and get there in 8.5 hours, I know as a crew we're going to evaluate the choreography that it takes to do things in that capsule, so we can inform future crews when they have 4 people, and we'll probably have longer rendezvous.
Okay, Morgan McFall Johnson with Business Insider.
Hi, thanks so much for taking my question, and this is for any and all of you. Overall, how are your nerves holding up ahead of being only the second group of people ever to fly on this new vehicle? And relatedly, I'm also wondering what your thoughts are about this recent Falcon 9 incident, where a masking lacquer clogged up a borehole in an engine relief valve and led to a launch abort. Just wondering what your reaction was to learning about that, and if you've had any conversations with SpaceX about it. Thanks so much.
I'll take the second part of that question in terms of the issues that occurred on the aborts of the launch. Basically, I started when I had my opening remarks, I talked about the number of people that have been working on this mission, and it truly is staggering when you look at those. And so all of those issues that you're referring to, they've been looked at very closely. They're still being looked at. They're being reviewed, and we have absolute faith and trust in the team that is doing that. And so we know that when we walk to that launch pad on Saturday, that everybody has assured that vehicle is ready. As far as the nerves, it's like anything. We're not quite there yet, right? And so sometimes if I had the football background, and so the nerves start to really pile on as you get closer to launch. And but at the same time, we're having a a very good time here in crew quarters. They're feeding us very well. Can't complain at all with that. We're having a lot of good laughs, and at the same time, we're going through a lot of our final preparations, a lot of our final briefings, final reviews, things of that nature, and that's all going well. And so I think that helps keep the nerves down a little bit as well, because you're just kind of going like clockwork through the procedure and the timeline.
Okay, Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press.
Yes, hi. Hello again. I'm wondering, what is the most valuable piece of advice you've gotten from Bob and or Doug? And do you know if they're going to be coming to watch your launch in person? Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so I think from coming to watch the launch in person, much like for their launch, the numbers are very restricted right now, just because of the situation with the pandemic. So I do not believe either one of them are going to be here. We've had an opportunity to talk with them not only right after they got on orbit, but then after they returned home, and so we kind of got some advice through the different phases of the mission, if you will. And I'll let everybody kind of, if they want to, jump in with something they heard from them that they thought was very helpful. I think for me, one of the best piece of advice from Doug when we were talking about the landing piece, he talked about staying ahead of the vehicle, and that just means, you know, making sure you are thinking ahead of the next step, the next phase. It's very similar to what we see when we're in the flying world, when you're out there in the jets that we're flying around. And so I thought that was a good piece of advice, that as we're getting ready to come into land, things are going to start happening very fast, and you just need to make sure you're staying ahead of the vehicle in each phase as we went through that.
Something that Bob and Doug mentioned to us, as Soichi said earlier, is all of the different sounds that we're going to have during the tanking, as well as during ascent on the way to orbital insertion. And I would say that my personal favorite, though, was to think about, with four of us, how we were going to pack our food. And so we actually rearranged our food to make sure that it was easy to access, and it also made sense considering that there were four of us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I would add along to that, not just packing the food, but dealing with things inside the capsule and how to do that efficiently so it doesn't eat your lunch while you're trying to accomplish other things.
Nice. Nicely done.
Strong side.
Stronger side.
All right, let's go to Paul Brinkman with UPI.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'd just like to kind of follow on with the discussions about the capsule, and thanks for taking my question. And Shannon, the four of you have been inside a Dragon before, suited up, and you also flew in a Soyuz before. Can you just kind of talk about what that was like to be in there? Did it feel crowded at all? It's probably clearly roomier than a Soyuz, but and also, do you think that 7 people could ever fit inside the capsule? Because I know that's been discussed before. Thanks.
Yeah, it's interesting since the Soyuz, where you normally see the crews sitting inside the Soyuz, is a pretty small space. But above that, you have a space where there's cargo. So between the two spaces on a Soyuz, it's probably only slightly smaller than the Dragon capsule. Although I think they have more cargo on a Soyuz staged about. So with 4 people, I think it does feel more spacious because it's one volume instead of 2 volumes that you have to move about in. I think 7 people, that may be that'll be sporty to see how you can handle 7 people, but you wouldn't have any cargo in there. So
Right.
There'd be room for them, but then again, it's the choreography of managing all your stuff when you have to get out of your spacesuits and into your regular clothes, where you're going to stage everything and put away your spacesuits. Is going to be difficult with 7 people.
Okay, Robert Perlman with Collect Space.
Thank you. For anyone on the crew who wants to take it, I know that you're flying a new spacecraft, but is there anything on board Resilience that flew aboard Demo 2, crew transfer bags, or any of your crew equipment? Are you reusing anything?
As far as I know, I think everything that we have on board is new. I guess there could be some common bags or things of that nature that maybe are getting reused, but it is definitely new. And I know I believe like with the Soyuz, they'll actually use pieces and parts out of ones that have already flown in the next vehicle, like control panels and things of that nature. But in our case, no, I think everything is new.
Okay, let's go to Andrew Havernick with KY3.
Hi, yes, thanks for taking my question. This is for Mike. Kind of a two-part question. What does this partnership between SpaceX and NASA really kind of mean for the future of just space travel and just NASA's future? And for you, for a personal standpoint, I'm based here at the Lake of the Ozarks, your hometown, small town Missouri. What does this whole kind of mission mean for you and mean for this area and the people that live here, and maybe the students that go to your alma mater?
Yeah, I'll start with the second part of that, and I would say, for all of us in terms of our alma maters and where we've come from, I think it just tells you that anything is possible, right? I mean, when I was growing up at the lake there, going to school at the Osage, I never would have thought that someday I was going to be sitting here getting ready to launch to the International Space Station on a brand new vehicle. And so it is kind of amazing, but I think it's a good reminder that anything is possible, and if you're willing to work hard and keep after it, it starts with a big dream, and then you just keep going. And so I think if we can inspire folks around there, I hope that maybe that does, and someone's following in our footsteps, and someday someone from Lake of the Ozarks is putting a foot on Mars. That would be pretty amazing. In terms of the relationship between SpaceX and NASA and what that means for future space flights, I think it's part of this opening the door, particularly right now, of low Earth orbit to more and more human space flight. So currently right now the customer is NASA. But in terms of other customers, I know they're out there, and in fact, I believe SpaceX is looking at some other customers at this point, and I'm sure Boeing and other contractors that are out there are looking at it as well. And so I think you're going to see, as this relationship grows, I think it's a fantastic thing that we're going to have more and more people that are going to have access to low Earth orbit, and not just astronauts that are coming from professional agencies like NASA, like JAXA, like we're sitting here in front of you today.
Okay, let's go to Amy Thompson with Space.com.
Hi there, thanks for taking my question. I was wondering if you guys had picked out a zero-G indicator and what it would be.
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah, so there's, that is one of the neat traditions of human spaceflight is the zero-G indicator, and we are going to continue that tradition, and we're going to save the revealing until the second stage is cut off, and hopefully it'll become pretty obvious at that point.
Okay, Irene Klotz with Aviation Week.
Thanks. I was wondering for maybe Shannon and Michael, what changes as far as just lifestyle you're expecting and preparing for with having 7 people living on the space station. When you all were there was smaller crews and sometimes much smaller. And one quick follow-up for you, Mike, is on Shannon's question. Is it you personally that volunteered / been drafted to have the temporary cabin in Resilience or wherever that ends up?
Shannon, you want to start with life, and then I'll...
Life, yeah. It's going to be interesting. I think having one of the big things we're going to have to be more mindful of is the scheduling of everything, especially the exercise equipment, because we all have to exercise every day. It's usually important, and so there's much tighter schedules associated with the exercise equipment, which will give us less flexibility in the rest of our day. So you have to exercise when you have to exercise. I think it might be a little more crowded around the dinner table, but that's okay. And we'll all have more food to share.
Keep coming back to food.
Yeah, no, that's food.
Yeah, and so actually, there's a position in mission control called the ops planner, and they're the person that's putting together our daily schedule. And I think for those folks, it's going to get much more challenging, because when we talk about not just exercise equipment, but there's the comm, the video loops, all of those feeds. Like when we're doing experiments and things like that, there's a lot of the investigators want to be able to see what we're doing real time. And now all of a sudden, you could potentially have 5 different people working on 5 different experiments on the International Space Station. And so, do we have the resources that enable that? And so, I think that is certainly going to bring some challenges with it. In terms of the me being in sleeping in Dragon, I don't necessarily look at it as drawing the short straw, though we maybe did a little bit of rock paper scissors for that, or Gunman, Dragon Man, Karate Man. No, actually, though, I think there's a tradition, Soichi, that oftentimes with the shuttle days, I think the commanders usually slept
in the cockpit.
Yeah, the commander usually slept in the cockpit, and so I think, at least for me, it just felt like that was where I needed to be. If any of us were going to sleep there, I felt like it should have been me.
Okay, Nicholas Samuel with Vero News.
Hi, this is Nicholas Samuel here. This question is for Victor Glover. Victor, thanks for taking my question. Can you talk about the importance of STEM programs and why the youth need to be engaged in STEM activities?
Oh, that's a great question, and I do feel that way. I think the importance of STEM is, in a nutshell, it teaches you to look at the world and to break things down into simple pieces that you can do something with, and then take simple pieces and build them into solutions to address the real world problems that are out there. And so to be able to critically think and communicate and then design things that improve life for all people. And so it is a challenging educational path to walk, but that shouldn't be a deterrent. That should be the reason. Just like we go to the gym and we put weights on the bar, it's making us stronger. A STEM education is a challenging climb, but once you're at the top and you get to see that view, you know that it was worth it. So there's this thing in the aerospace industry called the gray wave, where we're retiring more engineers than we're making. And that is an impact on our country and the globe in terms of folks that have the ability to work in the science and technology field. And so it's important. We need to make many more engineers and scientists. And so I would love to go everywhere that I can and to encourage young people to study it as much as they can, even if it's as a hobby or a minor. It's very important to the world, to all of humanity.
All right, let's take a question from Twitter. How are you feeling leaving the planet, and how do you expect the planet to change when you get back in 6 months?
Anybody?
Well, okay, so there are a lot of feelings swirling around right now. I'm really focusing on keeping them inside because we've got a lot of things to do. But I do think about it, and the biggest emotion or feeling or thought is that it's surreal. I wake up and I go, I really am at Kennedy Space Center, and we really are less than a week from launch. I'm excited. I also am focused. I have a job to do. I have many jobs to do, and I want to do them well. So there's a lot of emotion, and so I'm also focusing on trying to regulate those things and trying to keep them from distracting me so that I can do my job and get to the station and be productive. But I'm really excited. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. There's a long legacy of people that have walked through these doors and then walked out of them, and I'm just looking forward to being a part of that.
Yeah, and then in terms of what are we expecting from a change when 6 months from now, I think as Victor alluded to earlier, the pandemic, if the vaccine is out there and that can allow people to get out a little bit more and get back to I guess what we would consider normal, a little bit more normal, that would be nice. It's interesting. Chris Cassidy, right? He launched right at the beginning of this, and he landed right at the end, or it's still going on. And so for him, things didn't really change in that last 6 months. So hopefully we'll have a different outcome.
All right. Thank you so much for taking questions today. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I apologize if we didn't get to your question. We wish Crew-1 the best of luck. We'll be cheering you on. For media, the next event will be the Flight Readiness Review Media Teleconference tomorrow. Stay tuned to nasa.gov for details. Be sure to watch this crew launch on Saturday on NASA TV, online at nasa.gov/live, or on Facebook Live on the NASA Facebook page. Coverage starts on NASA TV at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Crew-1.
Crew-1.